my name is Chris Soucy. I am co-owner of the Savannah Paranormal Museum. My wife and I opened this museum kind of to offer up an opportunity for people to come into an environment where we have curated items from all around the world that have purportedly supernatural properties. One of the first things that comes to people's minds when you tell them that you have a paranormal museum is how? How do you end up making a paranormal museum? What exactly is the process of making a paranormal museum? Well, the story is quite simple. I've spent my entire life looking for ghosts. Since I was 6 years old, I've been investigating and looking and finding all of these ghost stories all around the world. And one of the things that happens when you have these kinds of experiences is people think that you are inherently an expert. I am not an expert. I am an enthusiast. I have a lot of information. But the truth of the matter is, for everything that I know, there is that much more I don't know. But that doesn't stop people from coming to me and giving me haunted objects. They will find these things in their lives and think that this is too much for me, this is too scary for me, I don't want it anymore, and they will bring it to me. I had a friend living in North Carolina, and he basically said, oh, you know what? I have something strange going on in my life, something strange that's happening in my house, and I need it taken care of. Now, does he tell me this? No. He simply calls me up and says, hey, what's your address? So I give it to him. I'm thinking maybe he's getting married. Maybe I'm getting a wedding invite. No. About a week later, I receive in the mail a saw. And this saw is just an old kind of beat up, it looks like a knife kind of saw. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, what the? So I give him a call. And I say, hey, what's going on with this saw? Why did you send me the saw? And he says, oh yeah, I found that in the barn on my property, and when I brought it into the house, all kinds of weird stuff started happening. Started seeing shadow figures, hearing weird noises, things moving around. So I figured the saw is haunted, so I sent it to you. So now I have a haunted object. What am I supposed to do with it? Now, a lot of people don't realize that you can't just destroy a haunted object. That is not the way to handle a haunted object. People are like, well, burn it or throw it out. No, those do not address the haunting and sometimes can cause some blowback. The idea behind a haunted object is that a spirit has gone into the object. The object became a vessel. The way our bodies are vessels for our spirits. And when we die, when our body is broken, the spirit escapes. That's the same with a haunted object. If you destroy it, the spirit escapes. The best way to handle a haunted object is probably to bury it, to give it a proper burial, to give it a ritualistic burial, because we do rituals to enforce and reinforce the idea that this is the end. This is where you are no longer a part of the society, where you can no longer interact with everyone. Well, over time, people would drop off dolls, and people would drop off ashtrays and other little bric-a-brac, this strange box they found covered in wax. And they'd say, these objects, they give me the heebie-jeebies, they scare me. Now my wife has a simple rule, and that is, no haunted stuff in the house. So I kept it all in the shed. And I had the most haunted shed on the block. Now I live in Savannah, Georgia, and Savannah, Georgia is steeped in haunted tradition. It is an absolute hotbed for haunted activity. There is a very vibrant haunted tourism trade here in Savannah. And it seemed like the perfect place to put together a haunted museum. An opportunity for people to come in and experience these haunted objects without having to take them home by accident. Finding out that they had inherited some terrible trinket with someone's spirit attached to it. The objects in the museum are here primarily so you can test your resolve. So that you can examine what other people believe to be haunted, whether you believe it or not. It gives you an opportunity to explore. There are so many objects out there that people just have ill feelings about. Not every object has a story that explains what is happening. We do have quite a few objects, though, that came to us with rich stories. And those are the objects that we truly put front and center. Because we believe very strongly that the story is a part of the haunting. That knowing the story behind these items helps give them some kind of weight while you're experiencing them. And that too comes to this incredible weight where people are like, Is that a true story? Is it a true story? It's very hard to tell. But we do have a lot of evidence that supports the story. People come in here blind and have the same experience with these items, and they have these incredible sensations that are repeated over and over again, and that all seems to be supporting the stories. I think that the ghost stories that we tell are about opening our minds. When we hear a ghost story, or when we're involved in that investigation, learning the history of some place, what we're really doing is opening our mind to the possibility that the spirits are trying to communicate, that there are spirits all around us. And it is in that moment that we're most likely to experience the paranormal or the supernatural. It is in that moment that we're really vulnerable, truly vulnerable. And so there comes the rub. Sit in the dark, listen to your ghost stories, open your mind. And when your mind is open, who knows what will come wandering through. We divided up the museum into different areas. We have an area that is dedicated to just paranormal history, just how humans have always interacted with the paranormal, whether it be through stories or through art, through persecution or fraud, rituals from around the world. We think that the paranormal history area kind of primes your mind, gets you in the thinking about how people from the beginning of time have thought about the paranormal, have thought about all of these spooky and strange occurrences, how they actually thought about life and death, and how important it is to examine those things, and how fear and dread are natural reactions to death. And so those stories became fearful and frightening. But by coming into an area where you have haunted objects, you're given an opportunity to face those fears, to wrestle with them, and to come away with a story of your own. A story where you've survived, a story that you can retell, and a story that opens other people's minds because you have that ability. Another room we dedicated entirely to Savannah ghost stories. Savannah is so rich with ghost stories that we were able to make a wall full of locations, and then we took red string and drew them to the maps. It's like a big murder map of ghost houses and ghost buildings. Because Savannah is so rich with ghost stories that we're able to illustrate, look how haunted Savannah is. And we only did the publicly accessible places, no private residences, none of the places that are off limits, just the places that you could walk up to, walk inside even, and experience some kind of haunting on your own terms. And then we have, of course, a cryptid room. Cryptids are fascinating because those are a perfect marriage of ghost story and science story and just you wouldn't believe it stories. Bigfoot, Mothman, Chupacabra. We decided to make sort of representations of each of them in as close to an approximation of the size that they would be if you were to encounter them, so that you could be in a room full of cryptids. And the cryptid room has the head of the Altamahaha, which is a Loch Ness monster-like creature here in Georgia. And again, it is about the fact that we tell these stories. The stories are spread from person to person. Someone saw something out in the woods and they tried to identify it and they tried to find the story behind it, and it became legend. Legendary. And I think that's probably the most important thing. When you're building something like a museum, what you really want is for people to examine what makes legends, what makes lore, what sticks to us, what haunts us. Ever since I was a child, I've been afraid of pretty much everything. And I found that the only way that I could navigate my fear was to test it, to put myself in those situations, to find myself standing next to or inside of haunted areas, I find that knowing the story helps me navigate all of these fears. Because I think that's where ghosts really belong. They belong in stories. And we've collected a wide range of stories to tell you. And as humans, I think that's the essential nature of being human. To witness something and then convey it to someone who did not see it. As wonderful as it is to gather together with other people who've had the same experience, it is also amazing to stand before people who have no idea what's happening and tell them what you know. Share your experience, your insight, what you've learned. And hopefully when people come through the museum, they will have some inkling of this wider world. And they'll be given the opportunity to say, oh yeah, I actually had a weird experience at this museum down in Savannah, Georgia. I once went to this place and there was a room dedicated to this woman who apparently died and went into a doll. And they had a spirit box running. And they gave me a little spirit chat thing that had words coming out of it. And it was like I was having a conversation with a ghost. And then those people who hear that story, they log it away in their brains. That there is a whole world of people dedicated to those ideas. That we can pursue the supernatural, maybe even catch it. That we can learn more about the world we live in by going further and further away from the solid brick and mortar and into the ethereal. I think there's great value, great reward in facing things that we don't understand. And here's something that I think is very important too. We don't have to understand. We do not have to understand. I think somewhere in our society, somewhere we learn this weird obsession and compulsion where understanding was the pinnacle of experience. We don't have to understand. We can be left to wonder. We can be left in awe. We can witness things that are beyond our scope and we can appreciate what that means. We can tell other people that we do not know and see the beauty in that. People are always asking me why this is this way and why that is that way. And the truth of the matter is, right at the base, I don't know. And no one does. But we have ideas. We have theories. We've observed enough to where we can make these kind of very solid guesses as to why things happen, as to what's going on. But no matter how close we get, no matter how much knowledge we have, no matter how much we think we understand, there is this one gorge that we have to get over, and I don't think we can, not while we're alive. And it's okay. It's okay to not understand. It's okay to be left with questions. So if you ever get the opportunity to come face to face with some haunted object and listen to some scary ghost story or go into that crickety old house, I say do it. I say expand your horizons, open your mind. Because that's what the museum really is. That's how we curated these items. They come to us with stories and sensations, vibes. And when we present them to other people, we offer them the chance to experience something more, something greater, something of the mysterious. I think that everyone deserves an opportunity to be full of awe.